I'm also making these decisions that aren't in my best overall interest for my health. I'm compromising that part. I'm giving up that side of it. I'll just be totally open and just say, like, I've used steroids a bunch of different ways. And for many years, I did use them pretty recklessly because I was just trying to get after whatever I could. I just wanted to lift the most amount of weight.
Yeah.
I was addicted to it. And so I was just like, well, this is kind of part of it. And part of me wanting to be the best is I'm also making these decisions that aren't in my best overall interest for my health. I'm compromising that part. I'm giving up that side of it to kind of jump in and go full blast over here to this. Now, there's a lot of people, that's a pretty bloated picture right there. There's a lot of people who would think, man, that's really dumb. Like, you would over inject yourself with these hormones. But if you look at most high level sports, you're going to get yourself into some really weird compromising positions. If you're into skydiving, if you're into black diamond downhill skiing, like you're going to get yourself in some, I mean, look at the stuff that Goggins does, he's draining his knee and he's going out for a run, so like, I'm not trying to minimize what I have done. I'm just giving perspective. You look at Jordan and you look at a lot of these athletes that I grew up idolizing. I was like, yeah, that's just the way shit's done, man. You just do any and everything that you can.
Do to win. Yeah,
you just do whatever you can to win. And for me personally, in powerlifting, it doesn't seem like anybody really cares. And in powerlifting, it's been talked about openly for so long. And that's, I think, the advantage that my brother had over a lot of other people was that in the powerlifting community, we talked about it quite a bit. So me and my brothers, we talked about it all the time. It wasn't this hidden thing. Even at the gym that I went to when I was a kid, it was talked about all the time. I remember the guys that were there, they were like, they would always just like dismiss me. They'd be like, there's no reason for you to even learn anything about any of this at the moment because you're 16. They're like, every time I worked out, it felt like I got stronger. So I never thought there was any, and they told me, they're like, you're just going to keep getting bigger and more jacked anyway. All you got to do is keep showing up. And I was like, cool. But I never even was like really all that enticed by them until about 3 to 5 years into training. Then I was like, I think that I'm going to end up doing these, so I should learn about it. And I learned, I don't want to say studied because people throw that word around so much, but like, I investigated it. I looked into it as much as I possibly could at the time with the information that we had. And then from there, made some decisions that were at least informed decisions on what to take, how much to take, when to take it, and so on.
If you don't mind me asking, you don't need to say all the things that you actually took, but what were some of the side effects when you were at your peak? Like, what were some of the things that you had to deal with, or some of the health issues that maybe you had to like, oh, this is happening, so I have to do this, if there was anything notable?
I would probably say like some of the most notable things, like one really notable thing is your breathing. Just because like I was also really big, but I think this guy's named Brandon.
Brandon Harding?
Brandon Harding. Is that the video that you...
That was the one I sent you, yeah.
Yeah, Brandon Harding, he said that like in the morning, he's like posing and then he gets like out of breath. And you're thinking like, how's that possible? This dude's so fit. Sometimes from taking in the extra calories and getting a little bigger and a little thicker than what your body's used to is part of it. But I also think it's a side effect of increasing the dosage of like what you're taking, and you just feel like bloated. So breathing can get a little out of whack. And again, that's for a power lifter who's not doing anything for conditioning. You can get really bloated, which doesn't sound like getting bloated doesn't sound like it's all that negative, but I think it's tremendously negative, especially with some of the deaths that we've had. I think the deaths are from high blood pressure. High blood pressure a lot of times is related to water retention. I also think it has to do with their blood being thicker. So my red blood cell count would go up. These are all things I really didn't know much about until I was probably using stuff on and off for about 2 years. And then as I wanted to, like I was on like normal cycles.
Pat Project family, I don't want you guys to continue looking dusty in your old gym clothes. That's why we've partnered with Viora Clothing. You see, I'm guilty of not wanting to wear these gyms to work out because they feel so good. So you guys need to head over there and just go check them out. This is the Stratotech tee. It's so comfortable. Oh, and let me just let you guys out. Andrew, how can people get it?
Yes, guys, you guys got to head over to viori.com/powerproject, VUORI.com/powerproject. Links to them down in the description below. Let's get back to the podcast.
All the kind of cycles that you hear people talk about on the internet. I'm not going to dive into that too much because it just gets to be weird. But when I wanted to take more, I was like, I need to look into this a lot more because I don't know what it's like. I can already feel that my blood pressure is higher because if I bend down to like pick something up, I feel like my head is like underwater or something like that. Okay. So I already knew that there was, and my friends and stuff that took similar amounts, they'd get under the bar to do a squat, their nose would bleed. And I've seen guys bleed out of their ears. We had one guy who bled out of his eyeball during a bench press. Bruh. It was just, it was insane. But like all kinds of weird shit can happen to your body when you're, you know, utilizing these drugs. And I think for young guys, for young men especially, the worst thing that can happen to you is to have your dick taken away from you. If your shit ain't working, like, man, it's it's a really sad day. Wah, wah, wah. One of those days. And I've had that happen, you know, many times because I think a lot of times maybe you get desensitized to the amount of testosterone. You're not supposed to have that much testosterone in your body. And I don't know all the mechanisms behind why you get shut down like that. You'll hear people say, oh, I got shut down. And they're not really talking about like their testosterone necessarily.
Because Greg was mentioning that when you do like take exogenous sources a certain amount, your body's like, I don't need to produce this currently.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it will shut it down. But usually when that happens, when your body starts to shut down its own production of like testosterone and stuff like that, for example, a lot of other things are getting thrown way off too, like your sperm count. Your body just is like, we don't need to utilize these parts anymore. Like this, you got plenty of testosterone. It's coming from your testicles, from my understanding. And anyway, they'll shrink. And I mean, you can run into all kinds of different things. But I think as a young man, like that would be demoralizing. Like if I was trying to date people and that shit was happening to me, that would have been a great reason to be like, hey, I think I'm going to come off this stuff. But luckily for me, it was an informed decision after I've been with somebody for a really long time. I was already married at the time. I had full-on discussions with my wife about it. We went back and forth. She didn't want me to do it. I didn't even really want to do it when I started it. But for some reason, and I don't really know what the calling was or where it all came from, but I was just like, this is something that I think I have to do. And I still don't know what that exact reason was, but I think that, maybe there's some sort of psychological thing where I just always want more. I just always want to try to be better. I just always want to try to do the best. And maybe I thought that was my way of doing that.
Hey, little mama, let me whisper in your ear. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel because we continue to bring you peak content on this channel. Obviously, you guys are here. You guys have watched the whole video. So like, comment, subscribe. All right. See you later.